If everyone will take a seat, we'll get this meeting started. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Destin City Council, February 18th, 2020. We don't have a pastor here tonight, so let's just start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Skip. First up is agenda approval. Council members, do we have any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Got a second? Let me get my little button here. Seeing no further discussion. Vote is unanimous, so moved. Up number one is approval of the minutes of the January 27th Special City Council Workshop.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Second. I got a motion, got a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Vote is unanimous, so moved. We'll start out, ladies and gentlemen, with my message, the state of the city. Catherine, I don't have to use this. You'll scroll through as I go. I'd like to thank everybody for attending and those that are watching it online. I made an arrangement with the council members to ask them to refrain from making any faces or tearing up my speech when it's over with. Good evening. I'm Mayor Gary Jarvis, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the 2020 State of the City Address. I'd like to recognize Councilman Rodney Braden in attendance, Councilman Parker Destin, Councilman Skip Overdeer, Councilman Marler, who's behind me, Councilman Stephen Menchel, Councilman Chatham Morgan, and Councilwoman Preble Ramsel, who is also our Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you all for being here. And I'd like to recognize our wonderful city staff and our representative from the Sheriff's Department. Thank you guys for attending. As I reflect upon 2019, I'm extremely thankful for my family and for the opportunity to serve you as mayor. I truly appreciate the dedication of my fellow council members as well as our employees. Cities across the nation recognize the importance of developing a brand to help stimulate investment, promote business opportunities, quality development, tourism, and a quality of life for the residents and future generations. This takes careful thought, consideration, and a vision. So I asked myself the question, what is our brand? Is it our beaches? Our world-class fishing? I'm kind of partial to that. Is it our parks? Our quality of life? Is our brand tourism? I believe it's all the above and much, much more. Some say that a brand is setting an expectation and delivering upon them. My fellow city council members go to great lengths to listen and understand the expectation of our residents, businesses, and visitors and what they expect our great city to be. From this feedback, City Council established a long-term vision for our city. We also developed a strategic plan to ensure we deliver upon that long-term vision and brand for our city. With community input, we're managing this city with clear goals and expectations for the future. The objectives we have in place will contribute greatly to the quality of life for generations to come. The Council's vision statement is this: Destin is a family-oriented beach and fishing community where people want to live, work, and play, and where guests are welcome to respectively enjoy our community and its resources. City Council has identified 3 key groups that are our priority. The first priority group is our year-round residents, followed by our Destin-based businesses and, of course, our visitors. This council has established a clear vision and unified approach for quality development and revitalization, as well as improved mobility and connectivity throughout our city. We as a council are thinking forward and prioritizing our goals as a city. We have many services, programs, and projects underway to fulfill our mission and continue to make Destin a great place to live, work, and play. We'll continue these efforts well into 2020 and beyond. The city hosted a strategic visioning session in October of 2019. Council and senior staff members met to discuss our achievements, where we are as an organization, and possible paths forward into the future. During the strategic visioning session, City Council identified key objectives and projects for the staff to focus on in 2020. Our strategic plan is critical to help guide our council and our staff in their day-to-day activities, as well as long-term planning. It also provides our residents, businesses, and visitors transparency into the City of Destin's planning and operations. We've provided the strategic plan as a flyer to all the participants here tonight. And I'd like to invite our video viewing audience to access it online at our website, www.cityofdestin.com/strategic plan. I'd like to update everyone on a few of our top council objectives for fiscal year 2020, which is part of the strategic plan. Beach acquisition. We have identified multiple funding sources for beach acquisition and are moving forward to secure potential properties in this year, 2020, and beyond. We've made great progress with Gulf Power and their parent company, NextEra, to work on finalizing a new franchise agreement, as well as finding innovative ways to underground utilities in our city. We have the community development, and our councils work diligently with our residents and business community to continue to improve our short-term rental regulations, which is going to provide a higher quality of life for our residents and a more enjoyable experience for our visitors. We successfully hired an experienced project and grant manager, a position that's sorely needed for our city, to help the city maximize external funding opportunities for city projects, as well as to ensure our projects are managed as efficiently as possible. We are working with our community partners to ensure our sheriff's services are properly funded for Destin. Discussions continue to be held in public meetings. We've got a workshop next Monday regarding the viability of a multi-use community and event center located in our town center, CRA. As we move into the next decade, we've made technology a top priority to further improve our business processes, organizational efficiency, and customer service. Our city council and staff have made a firm commitment to implement a comprehensive municipal manageable software package. Staff established a software implementation team with representatives from the Community Development Department, Code Compliance, Public Services, Information Technology, and the Finance Department. The goal was to collaborate and find an innovative solution to improve our organizational efficiency in permitting, review, inspection, code compliance, and financial progress. This goal has now become a reality. The City of Destin is now implementing a software solution called EnerGov of Tyler Technologies Incorporated. It's one of the largest and most comprehensive projects the city has ever undertaken. Through this software development, our departments are streamlining business processes. Everyone's very excited to have a new tool that will help serve the City of Destin better, more efficiently, and improve communication with the citizens of Destin. We are leaving no stone unturned as we enter into 2020. The city's financial software received a major upgrade, and with great success. Another major undertaking by IT was the coordination of the scanning and digitization of the building and planning division files. This is a monumental task, and I don't envy our staff have to do it. This process, as we move into 2020, will help the city move into a paperless system and provide greater access to documents. Code compliance has two top priorities and management objectives with the goal to strengthen community outreach and gain voluntary compliance through education and awareness of our city ordinances. With a mixture of proactive and reactive enforcement education, we've already seen positive results in 2019. All code vehicles have been striped to promote visibility. Light bars have been added for safety, and with support from IT, in-car computers and printers now allow officers to be more efficient in responding to citizens' concerns and spend more time engaging our citizens and visitors on our local ordinances. Less time in the office and more time on the road. Community service and education is now the key focus of our Code Compliance Department to improve the quality of life in our city. The Department of Community Development is the cornerstone in assisting the City Council to implement land use policies that enhance the quality of life and promote economic growth of the city. One of management's top priority objectives is to align the comp plan with the Land Development Code. Consistent with that goal, over the past year, the Community Development Department completed a year-long effort of aligning the future land use map with our zoning map to provide both synergy and clarity to the city land use policies and regulations. And that was an arduous process as well. Now the department's turning its efforts to upgrading the city's land use regulations to be consistent with the alignment. Through the acquisition of a new development review software, the department's planning, permitting, licensing, and citizens' requests will be automated and connected with a view to streamline workflow, improve communication, and increase productivity from the office to the field of operations. It will enable contractors and developers a much smoother, faster way into getting their projects done. We're thankful for the patience and the cooperation shown by the public as this system has been and is still now being implemented. Finally, notwithstanding these major system changes, the department is proud to announce in 2019 that it continued to provide the community a high level of service. The department and their leadership have been multitasking the entire year of 2019. The department processed a total of 53 major plan reviews. 3,007 permits were issued, 1,602 business tax receipts were issued. They executed 4,564 inspections and performed to further the growth and redevelopment of the city. For a city to run smoothly, you must have a dedicated staff. One of the city's top management priorities is to balance staffing resources with expectations. Our Human Resources Department was extremely busy conducting recruitment efforts, orientations, and benefit enrollments. This year, we replaced 17 employees due to retirements and turnover. HR hosted team building events to boost morale, promote teamwork, and foster the core values of our organization. Focusing on employees' health, HR held an annual employee health fair and partnered with entities like Fort Walton Beach Medical Center and Walgreens to cover flu shots, medical screenings for our employees and their spouses. Our HR department also initiated an 8-week leadership training course to our supervisory staff, thanks to the partnership with the City of Fort Walton Beach and Northwest Florida State College. As a city, our strategic focus is to operate with a transparent and equitable governance of our city's finances. Council has made it a top priority to ensure that we operate in a fiscally sound manner and continue to keep our millage rate as one of the lowest in the state of Florida. I want to thank our council and all of our staff for continuing attention and assistance and cooperation regarding the financial operation of our city. Our public services team has done another remarkable job this year. Under their new leadership, they've been working diligently to map processes and procedures, not only to improve internal efficiencies, but also in advance of seeking departmental accreditation from the American Public Works Association. Public Works staff completed several infrastructure assessments this year to include our pavement, sidewalks, pavement markings, signage, and drainage system. Thanks to a $3.6 million Gulf Environmental Benefit Fund grant, the city was able to complete all initially identified stormwater projects, which have worked to improve water quality and aquatic habitat in our city's waterways, as well as mitigating those areas that historically been susceptible to flooding. Public Services continue to work with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation to use the remaining grant funds to complete 2 additional projects to mitigate non-point source pollution and to improve drainage from 2 existing outfalls that discharge into the Marlar Bayou in Choctawhatchee Bay. In addition, Public Service oversaw the recertification of our Community Rating System program that rewards our citizens with a 20% discount on their flood insurance premiums based on a combination of factors, particularly our higher building standards, stormwater management program, and drainage system maintenance. Public Service works to keep Destin beautiful every day. This dedicated staff administers our revitalized citywide Adopt a Street program, which has welcomed several new volunteer groups, manages our right-of-ways and maintenance contract. They are responsible for operating our street sweeper, conduct an annual citywide tree trimming efforts, and is responsible for removing derelict vessels in Destin Harbor and Joe's Bayou. They also maintain the harbor pumping station, which I'm glad to say ran flawlessly all year long. That's hasn't happened in a decade. They also assist in community events and so much more. Kudos to the employees and their can-do attitude. Now moving on to the city's clerk's office, who provides administrative support for 128 meetings to include city council and 9 city committees and boards in 2019. They responded to approximately 550 public records requests and is charged with the maintenance of our records dating back to 1984 when the city was first incorporated. As it pertains to the maintenance, retention, and destruction of our public records, the clerk's office does an excellent job of maintaining a viable records management program. Plus, Ray keeps me out of trouble. Our Parks and Recreation Department are highly valued in our city. This department and everything they do reflects upon the quality of life in our community. It contributes to our economy, our environmental well-being, ensures the health of our youth, our adults, and our seniors. In 2019, the staff installed a lighting alert system and resurfaced the walking track at Morgan Sports Complex. Tennis court renovations were completed at Buck Destin Park. Destin's first National Football League youth flag football season was a success, and the city hosted 18 sports tournaments in 2019. And after many years, the original bleachers at the community center were replaced. Not only do they bring our community together, but by providing programs for all age groups year-round, they provide a wonderful contribution to our city, which makes Destin a desirable place to live. Our staff is working incredibly hard to bring our parks online for our residents and visitors to enjoy. The city has approximately $8.5 million earmarked for our public beach initiative to secure permanent public beach parks. And we'll continue our efforts for more financial funding well into 2020. We are thinking big and going to aim high to provide as much public beach access as possible. The best kept secret is our other parks all along the bay. Once work is completed and these parks are open to the public, we'll have an unprecedented number of waterfront parks for our city of our size to enjoy. Progress is moving forward with the new Captain Leonard Destin Park, and we look forward to the park opening sometime in the spring. We hope the renovations and repairs to our existing bayside parks, like Joe's Bayou Recreational Area, will be completed in 2020. Our library, as the love of learning, takes place where citizens, young and old, can come together and learn new things. In 2019, we had over 55,000 visitors to our library. Through the year, the library hosted various reading programs, continued with its STEM curriculum for middle school students, and during the summer offered weekly STEM programs for grades 1 through 5 and a code camp for teens. Our summer reading program was a great success with more than 1,500 patrons attending 54 programs, and along with some special events. Also, each year, our staff focuses on community outreach by making trips to Destin Elementary School, Destin Middle School, and the high school during orientation days prior to the start of school to get them to sign up for library cards and pass out pamphlets explaining all the things that Destin Library has to offer. I'd like to close by recognizing our city staff. They are creative, resourceful, and every day we see the results of their commitment to delivering excellent service to our residents and visitors. Most of their efforts are not seen by the public, and their dedication to serve this community is sometimes taken for granted. I know I do. And in most cases, a lot of what they do goes unnoticed. And so to them and their department heads, I just want to give you a great big thank you for all you do. Thank you to all our boards and committee members who are all volunteers. They give their time willingly because they care and they're committed to our community. Our strengths come from them and you, and your involvement is what makes Destin special. I'd like to thank you. God bless you, and God bless the city of Destin. Thank you. I've got two certificates that I'm going to pass out, and I'm honored to do it. On February 5th, Officer Donaldson and Officer Sullivan were flagged down and informed a gentleman had broken his ankle. They confirmed 911, first responders were called, and sprang into action. Both officers ensured the injured citizen was conscious and stable. While Officer Donaldson stayed to comfort the injured citizen, Officer Sullivan quickly secured a box in order to elevate and support the citizen's injured leg. Both officers continued to keep the injured citizen calm and stable until relieved by the Destin firefighters and Okaloosa County paramedics. Officer Sullivan and Officer Donaldson's actions bring a great credit upon themselves, the Code Compliance Department, and the City of Destin. On behalf of our citizens, elected officials, and staff, please accept this appreciation certificate and thanks for going above and beyond the call of duty.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll get a picture here. These are the true servants of our community. Thank you, gentlemen. Honored. Good job. Today, I attended the Okaloosa County Commission's meeting, and one of the things that took place is a joint proclamation of the Florida House of Representatives, the Board of County Commissioners, Okaloosa County, and the City of Destin, proclaiming April 18th through the 24th Beach Trash Awareness Week. We are, I'm not going to read the proclamation. It'll be on our city website in the interest of time. But basically what this proclamation is going to do is launch this week of beach awareness is to launch a public service campaign that our city and the county are going to execute to remind our visitors and our residents that the only thing we want them to leave on the beach is their footprints. So whatever you take to the beach, enjoy it. But when your day at the beach is gone, take it home with you. And we're going to do public service announcements. There'll be things on YouTube, website. We're going to do some videos and just, you know, encourage even our business community to remind everyone to leave no trace behind is what our program's going to be called. That being said, next up is we got Mr. Alan Osborne to do a presentation on water quality standards. Alan? Just state your name, your address, and press the red button.
Can you hear me okay? My name's Alan Osborne,
and I live in Walton County, 253 Driftwood Point Road. The reason I'm here before you today is I'm kind of a Destinite myself. I wandered in here. I'm adopted in 1988 because the military brought me down here and I fell in love with it. I have lived from Destin to South Walton, where my kids go to school, for the past 30 years, except for 5-year vacations in Iraq, Afghanistan, and lovely places like that. I'm destined enough that not only did I live by the Osteen beach access, I lived with Osteen. So I'm pretty destinized as far as knowing what's going on out here. And I want to talk to you about a problem today. I sent y'all a file picture of that. The reason I'm here today is to talk to you about something I hope you find is common ground for all of you. As I watch the battle of the harbor and the battle of the roads and the battle of the communities over the year, and passion on both sides, I cannot find anything as common as water quality that is as important to what the mayor just talked about in his speech. For without emerald water, you have nothing here. You don't have fishing, you don't have beaches, you don't have economy, and you can't save the environment if that's what you want to do. No part of Destin is untouched by dirty water. And the reason this is important to you today, and you're going, why is this guy here about something in Walton County? And I'm going to tell you it's because you have a development of regional impact. And there's a color picture of that I also sent to you. I'm going to talk to you about today because I want you to look, see if I can actually operate this and not blind Mr. Bagby in the eye. You see all that dark spot? And I brought you some today. We have color photos of that. Oh, I'm sorry.
Because this is all needs to be on the public record.
Okay. You see these dark spots on the side? Now it won't work, Gary.
Got your finger on the light.
Oh. Got to be smarter in this control now. You see all that black growth? You see it on this side? This is the Sandestin Development Regional Impact, and that's the end of 4 Mile Point. I will tell you, I've owned property and lived out there for over 20 years and fished it. And we are lucky in this town that we have satellite imagery back before we had GPS, because we had planes taking it from Eglin. And since 1950s, there is no growth on that. It was pristine, and I have a picture in my pocket that can show you what it looked like just in 2000. It was still pristine. But it is not, and I'm going to read you this. Here's why it's important to you. It was developed as a regional impact, and pardon me, I'm a little older. I have to join the mayor here. The reason that this development order is a development of regional impact is because its character, its magnitude, and its location would have a substantial effect upon the health, safety, welfare, and citizens of more than one county. That's important because that's what this development order is. It was adopted in 1976. And I want any of you to think that lived here in 76, think that you knew what this area would look like. But not only was it adopted by 1980, it was in violation for that very thing, not following its rules. And so it went into violation, and the state enforced on it and said, thou shalt follow the rules, and they readopted a plan in 1984. I brought you some handouts in case you didn't have them. I'd like to hand some of those out. I hope I have enough. There's a highlighted portion in there. It's also in the documents that were sent to you. I'm going to tell you why this is important as I talk you through a brief history. Like I said, in 1984, they came to an agreement with the state on this development order that they would follow the water quality standards. And they covered up some of the pipes and stuff that had put them in violation. And they were told to follow the standards. But the developers just didn't. And how do I know they didn't? I'm going to get to that. Let me tell you what the development order actually requires, because this is a little bit of legal, whoever the legal person is up here. A couple of you probably. It says this about the development order, because it would affect the Choctawhatchee Bay. There's 3 things about that development order that affect it regionally, and that's density, traffic, and water quality. And traffic and water quality go hand in hand. I will not tell you that it is out of compliance for density, because I don't know that. I don't think it is. But it says this: the older practice of curbing roads and thus directly running stormwater runoff immediately carrying water to the bay will not be employed. Once the runoff has passed through soils and vegetation immediately around the impervious surfaces, It will lead by percolation and sheet flow in cases of intense rain into a 170-acre series of internal lakes, meaning you cannot dump water directly into the bay. That was the rules that went with the development order, and they said, if thou can follow density, and thou can follow traffic, and thou can follow stormwater, then thou can build this. Now, I watched y'all argue over condos. There's almost 2,000 units left to be built there. And I'm gonna direct you to the first sentence of the handout I just gave you. This is an internal Walton County memorandum sent to the Board of County Commissioners. It is the opinion of ERD that neither the interior nor the exterior stormwater systems in Driftwood and their existing states meet the DRI standard. It goes on to say that retrofitting, that there's no practical method or cost-effective way of retrofitting the Driftwood stormwater system for such an extraordinarily high standard, referred to as the DRI standard. On the next page, there's lots of other issues here, but these are the ones that matter to Destin. 8, 9, and 10 basically say that even if we did this, we wouldn't be following the rules. And they're admitting it. But they're your monitoring source, and they refuse to tell the state that the state should issue a notice of violation. And that costs you nothing. It costs none of us anything. It means you don't go to litigation after it's over, because this is a state statute. It's 380. And the county can't just decide to break it because it affects Bay County and it affects Okaloosa County as much as it does Walton. That bay is everybody's, and no single developer has the right to break that. Now, the Choctawhatchee Basin Line standards confirm what that picture says, that they take intermediate contamination levels off of that buoy right off Sandestin. And you see, as it gets here, because we know we can't change the current, when it gets out here to the point, and right there's the deep channel marker right there as you come by 4 Mile Point, that current, when it rains, just sweeps this black growth off, and you wonder where it comes from. It comes down that ditch, and it comes through the East Pass. Folks, we can't afford this. And we can't afford, we got to learn the lesson of the Everglades. Everybody said, oh yeah, that's going to be a problem. It created $300 million in economic revenue. Folks, it costs billions to clean it up. It's always more expensive to fix it. Now, this memo says it's not economically feasible. It's not economically feasible for the developer. But I wage you this. I am not a tree hugger, nor am I a world capitalist. I believe that there's a balance in there. And if there's a possibility of $500 million, $2 billion in development and $500 million in profit, if they need to spend $40 million to engineer pumps and stuff to make it pass through those filters the way it's supposed to, then folks, that's the cost of doing business with a smart business plan. But we cannot continue to let Walton County and the developer know they're breaking the rules, and they are building like gangbusters out there. They're building concrete ditches against the development order, and the county's building them too. And the developer is defending the county as the intervener. So a citizen who sues the county, the developer will step in and say, I now defend you from the development order. That should worry you. That should bother you, that the county is not worried about notice and compliance, and they're willing to let the developer defend them. Folks, that's a fox watching the hen house. This neighborhood, my lot is compliant. I have an engineered plan on. I don't put any water in the street, and I love fishing and own a charter boat, although it don't charter very much with a bunch of old people. But it matters to me. It matters to me that my kids were born here and call this bay home. It matters to me that the LYs are gone. Yeah, we still got mullet and a few crabs, but I used to throw my net there 20 years ago, couldn't pick it out of the water. Folks, we cannot let them get away, because once those condos are built and there is no room to put that water, it's coming in your bay. Now, we could talk about the comp plan problems out there, but unfortunately, as long as the earth spins in the direction it does, and as long as Destin is here, you will be the downstream receiver of what goes in the Choctawhatchee Basin. So, although Valpy and Niceville may be cooperating, and the Okaloosa County Commission, You need them to cooperate too, because that's 2,000 acres of watershed that's in non-compliance by their own memo. So what I would ask of you tonight, if you want more, it costs you nothing to go to the governor and the state and seek enforcement. And if they're compliant and they prove it, guess what? They'll march on. But if you read my documents, when I came to present this to the county commission, a commissioner, the head commissioner told the attorneys, don't advertise this hearing because we don't want Alan Osborne to testify to the state. Also in your packets are letters from the state telling them to comply since 2007. They went in front of a special master. They were told to comply. And y'all have no idea what they're dumping in the bay. So this is free for y'all. But if you wait till you have a litigation problem in 20 years and you have a cleanup problem, your kids will be writing grants, and those kids will be writing grants, and we'll be then trying to figure out what we could have stopped right now. Let's turn the tide around. We don't need big developers being so big, yes, we need economic development, that they get to break all the rules. That doesn't do anything for anybody. So I'd ask you for a resolution tonight for the state to provide a notice of violation. And I would ask you to empower your mayor to go to the Okaloosa County Commission and get you a support of them too, to follow water quality standards in the Choctawhatchee Bay. That's what I ask of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Does anybody have any questions of me?
Yeah, stay up there. I've got Mr. Braden's first up.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne, for that presentation. Do you know what the black sediment or whatever that is that's on the beach?
There is a color portion in that attachment I sent y'all. I'm sorry. There's a color picture I also had, and I have one, I believe, an original with me that's stamped.
It was in our briefing document, Alan.
Yes.
Is it like an algae growth, or what is?
It's a black algae growth, and then the DEP calculations and the Choctawhatchee Basin Alliance. You know what's humorous is, or interesting is, there's points along all the Choctawhatchee Bay, and I had a biologist go over this with me, and he's available. You know, he's quit doing it because he knows that they're not doing anything with the information. But if you go east of the 4 Mile Point, the registration doesn't say that there's elevated nitrogen level. As soon as you cross the point into what's Old Horseshoe Bayou and that side of 4 Mile Point in Sandestin, their own survey says it's intermediate contamination levels of nitrogen. And let me tell you something, I've crawled through those pipes. I've got in there and crawled through, and some of those have been reconnected that were supposed to have been disconnected in the 1980s. I've crawled through all the way to the bay. I'll take anybody out here that wants to see it, but I'm telling you, I've got thousands of pictures, hundreds of photographs, and they did have to pay me a settlement to be quiet, but I'm not going to be quiet. I'm not going to. That bay is more important than me, any developer, or anybody else. Nobody should have the right just to do it intentionally, and that's what I'm asking you. That's the right thing.
Thanks. I don't know that we can do a resolution or anything tonight. We can definitely ask our attorneys to to look into it and
you absolutely
bring something back.
You absolutely, and I'm going to tell you that Walton County is not going to tell you that they're in violation, but their own internal document. You don't need anybody's permission for a resolution today. Nobody's. And guess what? If they if they can prove that they're in, nothing will happen. But they got to prove it. And they won't even have a hearing to even talk about it. They refuse to put water quality on the agenda because the developer won't put it on there. Gee, I wonder why. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm passionate about this because I know I'm right. And think about this. During depositions, the county administrator said that I knew more about the DRIs than anybody. And I tell you what, I'll provide you all my documentation. Are you the attorney? I will provide you all the documentation you need to demand that state enforce the letter that they wrote in 2007. So,
depending on council's direction, I would gladly look at those documents.
So I'm telling you, that's what I'm looking for tonight, for y'all a resolution at least to direct the attorney to tell the state y'all want enforcement. Enforcement at the state level costs you nothing, and that's what we pay state taxes for. We ought to get something out of it. And you've got a problem on your water quality management boards, because Okaloosa doesn't even, Walton doesn't even have a rep that I know of right now with the governor. That means nobody's watching. And that means when that county's up there pulling maintenance certificates, are they maintenance, or is it like my neighborhood where they just build a ditch right into the bay? And they're also looking to change their mosquito ditches to another definition. I tell you folks, you can fight amongst yourselves all you want about Crab Island's water quality. If you don't stop it upstream, you haven't done a thing.
Thank you, Alan.
Anybody else?
Just my thoughts, I'd personally like the attorney to look into it, maybe bring us back some guidance.
Yeah, if nobody on the council feels comfortable making a motion for resolution to have further discussion, and if that's the route we want to take, we'd also have to ask for some public input as well. Or we can do what you're recommending, Councilman, is just instruct our city attorney to receive his documentations, take a good look at it, and then bring a report back to us for us to take action. So Alan, just be patient with us. All right. Your presentation was very clear and concise, and I appreciate it. And I think we owe the issue the time to look into it further. Thank you very much.
Anybody else? Is that it? Okay.
And also, Alan, there's another opportunity. Everybody gets 3 minutes in public comments, and at the very tail end of the meeting, if you'd like to add anything.
And I would just tell you that in your package, there's a letter from the Walton County attorney where she says her and the engineers don't agree with something. Well, it's the law. And if you don't agree with it, there's a legislative process, and you guys would get a vote. You can't just disagree with something when you're in charge and execute the law. Even judges can't do that. So, thanks,
sir. Appreciate it very much. Very well done. All right, let me get back to my agenda. Okay, up next, we got Sunday parking at Marlar Street parking lot. Who's gonna, Pastor?
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to address the council tonight. My name is Joe Golston. I'm representing St. Andrews by the Sea Episcopal Church at 307 Harbor Boulevard, and our campus runs through to 310 Mountain Drive also. And what I'm asking is requesting free parking at the Marlar Street lot on Sunday mornings from approximately 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I know there are some special events that might be held, like the Seafood Festival, that might override that, but I believe 99% of the time on Sunday morning, no one's in that lot. We currently lease a building at 310 Mountain Drive to Coastline Calvary Chapel. And we hold services at different times, and our parking lot is pretty much always crowded, but we get by. And with the pending resolution of the City of Destin High School, the United Methodist Church, Grace Lutheran has come to us asking to lease space in our 307 Harbor Boulevard facility. And we would like to do this, but in order to be comfortable with it, if you add the congregations of the three churches, Grace Lutheran, Coastline Calvary, and St. Andrews, it's going to be somewhere in the 600-person neighborhood. What we are proposing to Grace is for us to have a service, one of us to have a service at 9 o'clock, the other at 11 o'clock, and Coastline is currently at 9:30 a.m. So that's going to put all three of us on that 307 Harbor Boulevard, 310 Mountain Drive property at the same time, coming and going, but it's going to get untenable at some point. So The Marlar Street, and I apologize, I missed, not sure how you misspell Marlar, but I did it a couple of times in my write-up. But the Marlar Street parking lot is right across Marlar Street from the 310 Mountain Drive property. And with your permission, if we could have several congregants of the churches park in that lot on Sunday morning, it would certainly relieve a lot of issue with parking at the campus of St. Andrews by the Sea Episcopal Church. Are there any questions? There is either a pass out or an overhead showing the campus. St. Andrews and Grace will be in building number 1 there in the lower right-hand corner. Coastline is in the building label number 2 there in the center top. And the Marlar Street lot is, the portion I'm referring to is in the top left corner. And to park there and walk across the street into the current parking lot is a great solution for us if we can get that done.
Does Coastline already share your spaces?
Yes.
They do. And what about Grace?
Grace is at the Grace Lutheran location right now,
So have
but
you
they're
entered
going to
in-
be displaced when the sale of the United Methodist Church and Grace Lutheran, I think they're kind of
Right.
concurrent closes or something similar to that.
So has Grace gone ahead and signed a commitment or a contract with you all?
No, we
Not
are
yet.
currently writing a lease. If everything goes on schedule, then they would like to start holding services, I believe, the Sunday after Easter.
After Easter, okay. Thank you.
Mr. Destin.
Thanks. I have very little apprehension to support this. The only thing I'd say is I don't think we want to make a decision this evening on it, but I think we're open to the idea. I don't imagine anybody would have objections. I do know that we may have to calibrate this with the help of our attorneys so we don't run into any establishment clause issues and basically hold the whole parking lot open to anyone who wants to use it for free. That way we don't pick and choose and then we have a run-in with constitutional law. But if we give them the opportunity to chew through this, then we could bring it back at a future meeting, hopefully, of course, before Easter, because it sounds like you guys are going to feel the pinch at some point pretty soon, right?
Yeah, and I assume that if we go down that route, some type of pass, recognizing vehicles that are at the church and not just going to eat lunch at 11 o'clock at the harbor would be necessitated if we're going to go down that trail. Chatham?
Yeah, I would support just opening the parking. Like you said, it's not used Sunday morning. It wasn't used Sunday morning before we started charging for parking, so I would be okay with just waiving, of course, addressing parkers' concerns, but just waiving the entire parking lot Sunday morning for everyone.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. I'll wait to hear.
Typically, government will get back to you.
Hey, Mayor, I have a question
Go ahead, sir.
regarding this. I believe that several of our livery vessel businesses claim they have a contract with this church for using their parking lot on Saturdays and Sundays as well, so it may be something.
We need to look into that further.
Yeah.
Can you address that, sir?
Could you repeat the question?
I believe we have several applicants in the pontoon boat rental companies claim they have contracts with the church to be able to use that parking lot for their overflow businesses.
That's correct.
So they're filling it up on Sundays. So you need extra parking, is that what I'm getting? For the church?
You're saying that the current contracts we have
Sir, could you turn the mic on, please? Thanks.
That the current parking contracts we have with several establishments to rent spaces, practically speaking, I've never seen any cars in the parking lot from those establishments. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but there isn't anything going on Saturdays. Did you mention Saturdays?
Well, I guess they have the ability to park their overflow parking there, I guess, year-round, whenever they want to. You know, all week, Monday through
Right.
Monday. So I was just curious of how that was playing into this whole thing.
Well, all of the spaces, to my knowledge, are in the front lot of Building A. Harbor Boulevard is at the bottom of the slide, and all of the rentals that I'm aware of are in that front lot.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mitchell?
Anyone else?
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. The issue I have with this, although I'd like to accommodate your request, I asked staff the following thing. Although this is a worthy cause, what happens when ABC comes to us and says they want to do the same thing, and C, D, and E? I'm just asking from a legal standpoint, what jackpot do we potentially put ourselves in by authorizing one group and then turning some other group down? Just something for consideration.
Before anything could happen on that parking lot, community development staff would have to review to determine what parking agreements, if any, exist on the property and how they would be affected by what's proposed. But they would do that. They just probably need to get with you and review what we have on file. And then most likely it would have to be open. If we were going to do a Sunday, it would have to be open to everybody, not just the church. So we'd have to make sure there was sufficient parking there, that's all.
Mayor, I think I'll just create a motion, maybe given staff and the attorney's directive. I'm going to move that we direct staff and the city's land use attorney and city attorney to make contact with the church and review with staff any existing parking arrangements that exist on the site and the potential impacts of what both from parking and financial revenue could be incurred with going forth with the agreement as proposed.
Got a motion?
Yeah.
Got a second? Any further discussion? Seeing none?
Could you open this up to public comment real quick, since we have not reached public comment yet?
So don't vote. Ray, clear my button. Thank you, sir. Thank you. We'll go ahead and open this up for public comment. Do you want to do that now, sir? All right. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to weigh in on this particular issue, on this subject, now's your time. Ms. Carey, would you like to add something? You know the routine? Yeah, we need to get a placard up there, so you just hold it up.
Tim said make sure you pronounce my last name right. Carrie Harbarger, Spring Lane. I want to talk about that for a second because I want y'all to know that my grandmother sold lots out in Walton County and built Grace Lutheran, June Pico, I'll have you know. Paul Cummer, his first christening was Matt Davis. His first funeral was my grandfather, big member of that church. My problem with the church is leasing this is it's killing these businesses. What we would want for parking for our community is great, except for these businesses that are leasing these church parking, like the church where Nighttown is part of that problem that are shuttling the people to Crab Island. I've kind of wanted to speak to Pastor Parton about this because what's happening is we're taking on some of Fort Walton Beach's parking problems. They're shuttling the people, they're booking the people in Fort Walton, and they're bringing them to Destin, loading them on the Eglin property as y'all discussed in a county meeting. And I don't, of course, would not like to take anything from the churches, but the problem with the overflow parking, they're leasing the parking to these people that are creating havoc in the community with the small businesses. And I kind of had a problem with Eric with that because I had to call him personally and say, did you lease the parking at the shoreline for that Crab Island shuttle? They're bringing 500 people a day. That's just from, so the point I'm making is that I think it's a good thing for the churches, but I thought it would be providing more parking for the Destin, because they're shuttling people. And my point is, the churches are creating problems by leasing this. Is there something we can do? It's creating these illegal businesses by the tons are coming. The reason they're leasing these parking from the churches is they're most vulnerable. To go to the parking and say, I want to lease your full, sure, I'll give you donations. But these are the illegal businesses that we're fighting right now that are doing this to the churches. So I just want to put that bug in the air.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Seeing no further discussion, I will close the public comment period of this. Is there any further comments on the motion in the second?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I would just say about these pontoon boats parking and other parcels, for example, the church, having these parking agreements, I think that's a deficiency in our city codes that allows this to happen in the first place. And you find an organization like a church that obviously needs money because church attendance is declining, and they see this as an opportunity for them to support their congregation. So I don't fault them. I fault the system that created this problem in the first place. And like he said, he doesn't see much of a impact, and I can attest because I attend St. Andrews on Sunday mornings, and you don't see that pontoon boat parking there, but they simply, on paper, have to have an agreement with another property owner.
And they don't use it.
And they don't use it. And they've offered to do it at Harbor Docks with us in our gravel lot, and I think it's a problem with our city that's created this in the first place. So I want to let that discourage from what I think is a very level-headed request, but you know, that's a problem that might need to be addressed separately because they're gaming the system, you know, and I don't fault the church for that.
Thank you, sir. Ray, could you get us back up? There we go. We got a motion, we have a second. We've had discussion, we've had some public input. Any further discussion? Seeing none? Unanimous, so moved. Next up is public comment. This public comment on agenda items that are not public hearings. We have a few of those tonight. And any other matter not on the agenda. Individuals all have 3 minutes. All you have to do is state your name, your address, and say what's on your mind. Is there anybody? Come on up, ma'am.
My name's Betty Letcher, Letcher. I live in Walton County. And I didn't know I was coming until about 4 o'clock this afternoon, but hearing about our bay, I have to speak on it because it is dying. I moved from the beach. I moved up over the bridge, 331 bridge, and I actually live on the bayou there, right at the mouth of the bay. Fish, they're dying. There's none. And I have proof. My son is a wildlife officer in Walton County, and he tells me too, it is just not there. And it's coming from, we used to have great quality. It's coming from all the drain off from the golf courses at Sandestin, the developments that are coming in, that they are not complying with what they should do. And I don't know how it is here, but I do know that eventually you will be affected the same way that we are in Walton County. And our commissioners, I used to go to all the meetings. I don't go anymore because they don't listen to anything. So I did want to comment, let you say, I live there and I see what's happening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? Sir. Down to 3 minutes this time, Alan.
That's fine. All I want to add, 2 things about earlier is...
Name and address again, sorry.
Alan
For the public.
Osborne, Driftwood Point Road. There's a lot of those, what the council mentioned and Mr. Destin asked. A lot of those towns you go, I travel a lot. There's a waiver at the bottom that says it's free parking for nonprofit organizations of any denomination. So there's a disclaimer at the bottom so you can separate it from people who are doing a paid business versus a community activity that's free. There's a good waiver. We can just copy that from another city. And the second thing is, I'm not sure what happened when I was up here. Was the motion that I go talk to the attorney? I was unsure of what happened. I just wanted to clarify.
That's exactly.
Okay. 'cause
That's
I've never
exactly
been
right.
yells.
Yeah, you can submit all your paperwork. He's going to review it and get a
Okay.
report back to us to take action.
Okay, thank you. I was just wasn't sure. It's the first time here.
Mr. Osborne, if you wait around for our first break, I'll get with you, okay?
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Public comment? Going once, going twice. I'm going to close the public comment period for this moment in time. At the very end of our meeting, there'll be another opportunity for anyone to weigh in on any of the activities that took place. We do have a couple hearings. There'll be also an opportunity to speak on those specific agenda items when they come up. Up next, Lance, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4A is regarding the Cybert Avenue parking area and the improvements that council has directed staff to take care of. Staff is asking council to authorize $67,000 to complete the temporary improvements to the middle parcel of the Cybert Avenue parking area so that we can have that operational definitely in time for the 100 days of summer, if not before then. Originally, council had authorized $40,000. After we had the plans and the contractor look at them, the amount was increased by the contractor to $67,000. We're asking for council to approve that. Just so council is aware, we did budget $75,000 for this project, so we have the funding for this project. You know, we have staff here if you need to have any questions answered.
Go ahead, Mr. Destin.
So moved.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? According to the report, we're still under budget, correct? All right. Seeing no further discussion? Ayes have it, so moved.
Item 4B is the bi-monthly eGov update, and we have Mr. Warren here to bring that to you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff is pleased to provide a regular update on the EnerGov project. We are having two 3-day training and development sessions in February. One was this past week, as well as we have one next week on February 25th to the 27th. These sessions do provide hands-on training and opportunities for our staff to build our system with the experts from EnerGov. We are in one of the most difficult stages of the software development. This stage involves actual process development, documentation, and data conversion from our old systems, as well as preparing our scan file deliverables for our future system. Staff also met with our GIS mapping experts from the county, and to ensure our mapping portion of the project is on target. That went very well and was a very productive session. And staff will be bringing back a little bit different form of an update in March. We've been talking about the software development process. We'd like to provide some brief examples of what this software will be looking at like in the future. So stay tuned for March. We're going to bring some a little bit different update on this and educate everybody on what they can expect with this new software package. And last of all, I really want to thank everyone, staff, and let everybody know how thankful we are for their hard work on this project. Their hard work will undoubtedly transform the way that Destin does business with many of our residences and businesses. And as always, thank you, and staff is prepared to answer any questions you might have.
Item 4C, staff is asking for council's approval of Resolution 20-3, opposing the short-term rental legislation proposed at the state level through the House and the Senate. And we have already sent the letter, and Ms. Kopp and Mr. Zanguzzi have prepared the resolution.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion. I move to approve Resolution 20-03 and direct the city clerk to distribute the resolution according to Section 4 of the resolution.
Second.
I got a motion, I have a second. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Overdeer.
Yeah, I was in Tallahassee last week with the Florida League of Cities, and I talked to all of our representatives and all of our senators from Northwest Florida, and to a person, none of them support this, and they all know that this is some kind of an effort on from the people in South Florida. Why, I don't know. They keep bringing it up every year, but this resolution will just confirm to them what we want them to do, and they already know what we want, so it's a good thing.
Thanks, sir. Any further discussion? Seeing none? The vote is unanimous, so moved. Technology's great until it doesn't work.
Item 4D, back on January the 27th, council held a workshop regarding discretionary half-cent sales tax and gave some direction to staff to bring back of how to divide those funds up for use. Staff captured the following: creation of 4 buckets, one being for beach acquisitions with a recommended amount of 75%, roughly $9.6 million over the life of the half-cent sales tax. The second bucket would be for undergrounding utilities, 10% or roughly $1.28 million over the life of the half-cent sales tax. The third bucket would be for use at the discretion or recommendation of the Public Works Public Safety Committee, who will identify projects and bring recommendations to the council. That's at 10% or $1.28 million over the life of the half-cent sales tax. And finally, the fourth bucket was at 5%. Or $640,000 roughly over the life of the half-cent sales tax for other projects as decided by the council. Staff is looking for council's direction and hopefully approving these percentages. That will allow us to move forward on many of the projects on your strategic planning sheet.
I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I'll make that motion. I move to allocate a half-cent sales tax revenue to the following: 75% towards beach acquisitions, 10% towards undergrounding utilities, 10% towards public works, public safety initiated projects, and 5% towards other projects.
I have a motion.
Second.
And I have a second. We will, but first, Ms. Ramswell would like to weigh in. Go ahead, ma'am.
Sure, just a question. When I go back and review the minutes from the workshop that evening, it looks like we had discussed 80%, but I noticed that there's 75% in the numbers presented tonight, and I'm just wondering why the change?
I know that throughout the workshop, the number was bouncing around a little bit, and I mean, this is at council's discretion as to where this finally ends up at. We tried to give it our best shot as far as what the consensus was to bring it forward, but I mean, we're happy to hear council's opinion on this.
I was just curious, and I mean, I see how you distributed it, but I just wanted to make council aware that when we discussed about it that evening, we had talked about the 80, but you're right, we did go 75 at one point. So whatever the council's good with.
Mr. Overdare.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, none of this is etched in stone. I mean, this is just something to work with. And I think maybe the 5% for other projects is where we took some of that beach acquisition out. So, but I mean, everybody knows beach acquisition is our priority. So if we wind up shoving 90% into beach, that's just the way it's going to be. But this gives us something to start with.
All right. Well, any further discussion? We got a motion. We've had a second. Let's vote. Vote is unanimous, so moved. Lance?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 4E is regarding the beach acquisition agent that the staff would like to enter into an agreement with. We had previously had Ms. Kate Brown from the Trust for Public Lands here to speak with the council. Ms. Brown is also the project manager over Captain Leonard Destin Park being built. She's managed that one from the ground floor up, and will be turning the keys over to us hopefully within the next few months. We've had some preliminary discussions with Ms. Brown about taking on this project to provide her expertise in acquisition of beachfront property. This is what she does for a living. She's very good at it, and the cost to the city would be there would be no upfront cost to the city at all. The Trust for Public Lands gets their money from the seller. They enter into an agreement with the seller on their own that's how they make their money. But from staff's perspective, this is probably our safest and best bet to go to get the best bang for our buck, and to also remove staff one step from this process, because this is protected information. And we would ask council's permission to engage Ms. Brown, the Trust for Public Lands, for this purpose.
Before I make a comment, I'll entertain a motion. and then we'll have discussion.
Okay, I move to authorize the city manager to work with the Trust for Public Land to negotiate beach acquisition opportunities and bring individual properties back to council for consideration in accordance with state statutes.
Okay. Second. I have a motion, and I have a second from Ms. Ranswell. My comment is this, by using the Public Land Trust, no matter who we would decide to try to negotiate this deal from within our own real estate community, it would cause wailing and gnashing of teeth. And this organization was established by the state for this very purpose, for municipalities to buy privately held properties. And I think that Webb and the city manager and I were in full agreement that this will be the best and most practical route for us to take, because this is a big deal. And we're talking about millions of dollars and doing something big. So I'm a strong proponent of using the Florida Land Trust. Mr. Braden.
Thanks. Just brought up a question I had. I think I was going to bring up later, but I'll ask it now. Do we have any update on where we stand with the land from Eglin, the Eglin land on the other side of the bridge we're talking about?
Funny you should ask. Our representative on the county commission brought that up today, that asked if we were interested in pursuing that with the Air Force as a joint venture with Okaloosa County and City of Destin to do something with that land on the west side of the Destin Bridge and maybe even further west than that. And I told him that same thing I just said to him. It was funny you should ask, because we've already a couple times have had that discussion, not only in public comment, but here at the council. So Councilman Wines has brought it up with the commissioners. I think they're looking in it now, and then when he's going to come back and let me know what train of thought they're having, and we'll probably I'll have you a report on that soon.
Didn't we have our Parks and Rec or something take over that?
Yeah, the council did direct the Parks and Recreation Committee to take it up, and so I'm not sure if Lisa Firth has an update for us or not yet. No. Not yet, but they are taking it up when?
No, we have.
Good.
Yes, we did reach out to Eglin, and they have, we have an application that we have to look over. I think Kim has also reached out to them, correct, Kim?
They reached out to me before the council meeting, but I
Yeah.
haven't spoken to them since.
So that's about where we are. We have an application, and Kim and I were going to get together and look at it.
Okay. Thank you.
It sounds like we have some parallel discussions taking place
Yes.
here with our thing. Plus, I'm going to have a meeting with General Kane, the commander, next month on the 24th. That is one of the things that I was just going to discuss with him in passing. Kind of might as well hear it from the top. So,
There you go. Sounds good.
But our plan with the committee was that the Parks and Rec Committee was going to make recommendations for what to put into the application, if anything. We were going to take those back to council for a council directive, and then decide whether the application would go forward, depending on what council decides.
And I think I'll ask Commissioner Wines to come in and give us an update of what the county commission is thinking, the path that they would like to explore as well, so we can kind of move along at the same path, same rate. So anyways, we did have a motion, correct? Yes, we had a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none? So moved. There you go, Webb. You can contact Ms. Brown.
Item 4F is the Land Development Code update with Mr. Zunguzzi.
Thank you, City Manager, Mayor, Council members. During the last council meeting, I did share with you that we had completed our task to align the zoning map and the future land use map. So I'm here today to inform you that my staff and I are now in a position to undertake the work of updating our land use development code. I strongly believe that how we develop and where we develop matters. I shared that code that I'm sharing with you up there to a recent gathering of my fellow professionals and imploring everyone about the link between a comprehensive plan and the land development code as the cornerstone of achieving a community's vision. And I just want to share that with you. That is something that we strongly believe in our office, and we intend to deliver on that. The reason I wanted to kind of have some discussion with you this evening is to ensure that we have a shared sense of purpose as far as what this product will be, and also a shared sense of direction of how we're going to do it. So the issue we have with our land development code is not simply an update. The real purpose of it is that our land development code is not consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan. And so whatever we wish in our vision that we have in our comprehensive plan cannot be delivered with our current code. I can't tell you how many hours are spent between the land use attorney, myself, and my staff trying to interpret our current code to what the policies are in the comprehensive plan. That's got to change. And so we're going to go through article by article, chapter by chapter, and go through that evaluation.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
It sounds arduous, just at face value. Will you put together a series of changes and we'll just chip away at them X amount every 2 weeks, or what's your plan, do you think?
I don't have the specifics of the plan yet. I know where I'm going to start, and the reason why I'm going to start there, that's why one of the things I want to share with you, because how you start always determines where you end. And there's a science to this madness, especially in land use, because there are certain characteristics that impact a community and have what I call catalytic events thereafter, that if you don't start with those, you don't quite get to where you need to get to. And so when we discuss the approach, you'll see why I'm starting where we'll be starting, and then thereafter things will evolve. Okay. It's important that we have some guiding principles to our work so that we have an ability to judge, to determine whether we're staying on the right track. And I have 4 guiding principles that I think are critical. One is simplicity. That document has to be simple to read. We want people to be able to follow it, and therefore they should be able to read and understand it. That's one. Second, it should be easy to navigate. Currently our code is pretty much undertaking a gymnastics endeavor to go through. And I think we need to change that, and with the automation that's currently taking place, that should help a great deal. Third, I think a code should enhance, showcase all the elements of the different neighborhoods that we have, and especially our special planning areas. And a code should be able to do that. And third, if there are special policies that we have, and I know one of them is our multimodal transportation, we've got special policies for that. We need to ensure that whatever we're saying in there has provisions for it for implementation. So those will be the 4 critical elements that when we bring a product, if you could look through and say, is it simple? Is it easy to navigate? Is it showcasing things? And more importantly, is it implementing our policies? So at least you have some measure of evaluating the products that we're going to bring to you. Okay. The approach. Go ahead, ma'am. We were going to start with Chapter 8, and that's the transportation element of the code. No, it will still remain Chapter 8. But because Chapter 8 has a catalytic element to everything else that happens, that's why we need to start with Chapter 8. As you know, two things have happened. 2014, the City Council totally revamped the transportation element of the comprehensive plan. New policies, new direction is all in there. We need to capture what has taken place and bring it up to date. That's first. And secondly, we need to set the tone. Transportation, our arteries, our roads determine the quality of life in communities. We just heard a couple of while ago about how traffic impacts communities. Well, how you traverse and how you get off the main roads into your neighborhoods, into your private lot, all that is impacted by Chapter 8. And so we need to start there. It will then determine what happens thereafter. Yes, ma'am. And in that approach, specifically we're going to look at evaluating all the provisions that you have in the comp plan. We're going to reorganize the chapter such that it reads well and it follows through. We should make it easy for people to do the things we want them to do. And right now we do not do that. And more importantly, we should then update all the provisions that needs to be updated. What are the benefits that I see coming out of this? Three. First, we'll be able to deliver a customer-oriented code that serves not only our residents, but also the development community. That's important. Second, we should be able to enhance the quality of life through all the things that will be enhanced in the code so that our investment opportunities are showcased in the community. And lastly, through a good code, we should be able to, between us, administration and the City Council, implement all the policies that we have to get the vision that we need in the city. That's the approach we're going to be taking. Hopefully, it will help us get to your vision. I'll take any questions that you may have.
Council members? You did such a good job, there are no questions. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Stephen.
I'll go with the motion.
Let's go.
I move that the City Council direct staff to proceed with the updates to the Land Development Code as outlined.
Second.
Any further discussion? Mr. Braden?
I just want to say thanks again for taking on this job. I know when you applied for it, you and I spoke, and I told you you were stepping into a mess, and you took it on, and you're doing a wonderful job with it, and I just want to thank you for that.
I see a lot of head bobbing, so that's a consensus. Just keep up the good work. Does anyone have any further questions or comments before we take this to a vote? Thank you. Appreciate it, sir. Let's go ahead, take it to a vote. The vote is unanimous. So moved. There's your marching order, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Zunguzzi. Item 4G is regarding construction noise limitations. The council had asked staff to bring back some recommendations. Ms. Kopp and Mr. Zunguzzi have brought back those recommendations, which include possibly limiting construction activities on any federal holidays, possibly limiting construction activities Monday through Friday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and possibly limiting weekends, Saturday and Sunday construction activity from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And staff is looking for a recommendation to bring back a resolution if that's council's desire.
Go ahead, Mr. Marlar.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a little heartburn with weekends, especially in residential areas. I mean, the point I guess I'm making is that a person should be able to have a nice quiet weekend at home if they've been out working all week long. I understand sometimes construction jobs are on a time frame, but I think, you know, Saturdays and Sundays shouldn't be interrupted in a residential area. So that's just my only concern.
My only comment to that, Ms. Marlar, is like this week, where it's raining and crappy all week, and then it's going to clear Friday afternoon and be nice Saturday and Sunday. So maybe a good compromise would be allowing construction from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on weekends, somewhere in the middle there, instead of just banning it completely. That would, Lord knows what Florida weather's like, especially in February and March and early April. It's wet and it's foggy and it's nasty, and the same thing happens again in the fall. So maybe there's a medium point that we could take somewhere along that. And on the 7 p.m. during weeknights, I think we've had some issues late in the evenings, actually all the way into early morning hours, and a lot of it has to do with the pouring of concrete and the temperatures and stuff like that. So I sure would like to hear from the construction community a little bit on those kind of restrictions. Have you had any conversations with the construction companies or contractors on issues like that, Ms. Kopp?
Our building official would probably like to respond to that. I have spoken with one attorney that represents a property owner, but the building official has more information.
Thank you, Kim. Mayor, yeah, I'd like to address that. We haven't had as much on the placement of concrete, which is allowable if they have to at 3 a.m. However, they are supposed to let the adjoining neighborhood or residential units know of this, I think that are in 200 feet of the project, about it as I guess, a courtesy. Hey, by the way, we're going to make noise at 3 a.m., but, so, I mean, it is something we need to probably look at to see if we're comfortable with keeping that. I think it really had to do with more to the larger projects where they have huge slabs that take, 2 sessions to actually pour that whole thing. Like they do it this morning one day, and then they wait a few days and they do the other side. I know, I'm not sure when this came into the ordinance. I think it was when some of these larger developments were going in, and especially summertime, the heat of the day, they couldn't pour into the heat hours of the day. So they tried to get in as early as possible.
When you were considering this, Ms. Kopp, the ordinance, is there maybe a possibility to where we can set more restrictive guidelines but then make provision for special waivers that the contracting companies will have to apply for, with stated standards that they have to meet, that if they are going to pour concrete from 11 p.m. to 3 a.m., that there's a process they go through? Just to allow them the ability in specific cases.
He did talk about it, I believe, and he can respond himself, but I believe the community development director felt that was overly restrictive to the developer, but we can talk about it further. What we came up with was intended to try to balance, and so we haven't prohibited construction on weekends. We suggested 9 to 5. We didn't address the concrete because based on discussions with the building official and the community development director, that is necessary in order for the construction to get accomplished on time. If you start to restrict when the concrete can be poured, you're just going to drag out the entire project and the construction longer, so that the noise actually just lasts for more months.
You just compound the problem.
So, yeah, depending on how you look at it, but.
That's just my biggest concern is just the actual execution of a contract or a project, that we don't you put needed restrictions for quality of life for the people that are affected by the noise, but at the same time, not put people in an impossible situation to finish a project.
Yeah, and this is a difficult situation for both sides. We'll certainly take another look at that and see whether perhaps in those cases where concrete or heavy equipment is being used, we can ask for additional notification to take place or special provisions to take place. But I understand that throughout, the longer we take in getting the construction done, the longer the complaints will carry on. So it's trying to strike a balance between getting something in as efficiently as possible whilst also not creating degradation of the quality of life. So.
I get it, because there's nothing more irritating as one of those big old dump trucks or a bulldozer backs up, and that annoying beeping sound, and it seems to carry all the way from one end of the city to the other. So I get that aspect. I just want to make sure that we don't overreach here and actually create more of a problem than we're trying to fix. Does any council members have any comments they'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion.
Let's do it.
Motion to direct the city land use attorney to proceed with the preparation of an ordinance to implement staff's recommended changes. And maybe you can have them stop with the backups. Beep, okay?
Disconnect the horn?
Okay, that'll keep you from being...
I don't think OSHA would like that very much.
I'll second that motion.
We got a motion, got a second, Mr. Braden.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I don't know where the whole ordinance was changed, that they had to pour the concrete at 3 in the morning. I know why they want to pour it in at 3 in the morning, because it's just, they don't want to get in the heat of the day and the guys don't want to work in it. I was a job superintendent out at Eglin Air Force Base for several years. And we poured a lot of concrete, and every truck had to have 3 tail cylinders. Every truck had to be slump tested. We had strict guidelines, and we never had to pour concrete at 3 in the morning. We poured a lot of concrete. Every job was done on time. When we had to pour large pours, we had to bring in more manpower to handle it. So I don't know why. I mean, I know, and the guys wanted to pour early in the morning because they didn't want to be out in the heat of the day working that concrete, because it is hot. I don't blame them for that. But we never had to pour. And you know, if you're going to have to pour it at 3 in the morning because of the temperatures, whatever, Eglin was going to make us do it. So I don't know where that come from, other than they just came in and convinced staff or whoever back in the day that they needed to start pouring at 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever. I would like to try to look at that some more.
Yeah, and I think under the motion that you guys have the latitude to maybe reach out to industry, some folks that are in the concrete business, and just get their take on it. So you have information to answer our questions or Mr. Braden's concerns when you bring the ordinance back to us. That sound good? All right, so we got a motion. We have a second. No further discussion? Vote is unanimous, so moved.
Finally, Mr. Mayor, 4H, one quick announcement. We have a workshop scheduled for Monday, the 24th at 6 p.m. in this room regarding researching the validity of a multi-use convention, sports, and/or community center, and the public is invited.
Yeah, and we'll have you an agenda by Thursday, I promise, for everyone to go over.
That's all I have, sir.
All right. What time is it? 7:30. That's break time. 5 minutes, everyone. I think,
Well, we have a quorum.
I think between me, you, and Chatham, we consume about 1,500 calories.
Well, if you throw in,
Mr. Morgan, would you like to join us? Honest answer from an honest man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and call the meeting back to order. We'll start agenda item number 5A. Mr. Bowman, take it away.
This is the second reading of ordinance number 20-02-LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin, Florida, amending Articles 6, 7, 8, 11, and 12 of the Land Development Code to delete all references to the tiered land use system pursuant to the city's comprehensive plan, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
Seeing how this is a public hearing, at this time I will open up the public comment portion. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to weigh in on the second reading of ordinance 20-02-LC? Seeing none, I will close the public comment portion of this, and I will entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion. I move the city council approve proposed ordinance 20-02-LC on second reading.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none? Vote is unanimous, so moved. Mr. Bowman.
We have next 5B, the second reading of ordinance number 20-03-LC, an ordinance of the City of Destin amending Article 2 of the Land Development Code, amending procedures for lot splits and lot line adjustments, providing for findings of fact, providing for incorporation into the Land Development Code, providing for conflicting provisions, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date, and this is a public hearing.
And as stated before, seeing now this is a public hearing, I will open up the public comment portion of this hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to weigh in on second reading of ordinance 20-03-LC? Don't come up here all at once. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public comment portion of this hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion. I move the city council approve proposed ordinance 20-03-LC on second reading.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Is there any further comment from the council? Seeing none? Unanimous, so moved. Item number 6, consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I make the motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Seeing no further comments? Vote is unanimous, so moved. Mr. Braden.
Thank you, Mayor. First thing, just want to kind of give the council heads up. It's coming down the pipe. Been working with FDOT on the Highway 98 redesign that they're coming through with. They're going to start their redesign possibly next year. They got millions and millions of dollars they're going to spend on 98 or can spend on 98 for improvements and redesign, landscaping, etc. And they really want to hear something from the city. They want our input. They want us to be involved in that process. And they was hoping somebody that had reached from the city had reached out before now. But anyway, I'd like to try to get a resolution done up, maybe by the land use attorney, and present some stuff to the council at the next meeting for us to think about, to get involved with FDOT. And I'd like to bring it up myself, or spearhead it myself, because I was so vocal on the crosstown connector and whatnot, and I want them to know that we're we're all for, if they want to spend their money on 98 and landscaping and wider sidewalks and keep it all within that, our easements, we're all for it, and we're behind it 100%. So I'd like to give that to the council for their approval next meeting. Also, I'd like to thank all the county commissioners this morning at their meeting for sticking by us and keeping Crab Island, that ordinance. I know they tweaked it a little bit, added a couple things to it, but they passed that this morning. And as far as the presentation that Mr. Osborne made earlier, I know we're all real concerned about our grass beds, and that's, anybody can go across that bridge and look and see that grass bed that I used to crab in when I was a kid is not there like it used to be. And all the menhaden and stuff that you mentioned, we used to go, it was just acres of them out there in the bay, and not anymore. So something's going on. But I hope we look into that. Do we have any more, what's going on with our engineer? We put back out for looking for another one, or?
Yes, that's correct. We have advertised in several locations, professional organizations. I've actually started to receive applications, and I know we've received at least 2 back already from the advertising that we've accomplished.
Awesome. Have we gotten any bites on our bids for our park? For contractors on building that?
Captain Royal, Melvin?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's still out to bid right now. Contractors are definitely engaged because they're engaging our staff with questions of clarification on the RFB, which is a good thing. That means they've got it, they're reading it, and staff is responding and making addendums to the RFB.
And when is that deadline?
I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it was around, I don't want to speculate. It's towards the end of this month because of the addendums that we are getting ready to issue. I believe we're going to extend it a week to give the contractors time to make changes in their bids with us. There was a question regarding a very small pavilion on the plan, and the specifications weren't listed, and one of the contractors asked about it, so we made that correction, and we're going to give them an extra week, is our intention. So the addendum should go out tomorrow.
So we should possibly be picking a contractor by March?
It's very, very possible, yeah. The bids will be in by then, so the bid committee will review it and then bring back the choice to council.
That's awesome. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Braden. Ms. Ramswell?
Thank you, Mayor. I have just a few things tonight. The first thing I wanted to bring up was the wheeled vehicles on the beach ordinance that I believe we've seen and is somewhere floating about. I wanted to see, we have that newly formed beach advisory committee, and I wanted to see what council and staff thought about having the beach advisory council take a look at that and having any suggestions inputted before it comes back to LPA.
We certainly can take another look at it, but we did fix the amendment that was missing out the last time that came through. But we certainly can, if you wish us to take another look at it and involve other folks, certainly.
Well, I haven't reached out, but I've had a couple of folks reach out to me with concerns about it and different issues that have cropped up as a result of some of the things that are in it. And this joint advisory committee is really a perfect place because you've got vendors, you've got beach safety, you've got the fire department and the sheriff's department and everybody involved in this committee, as well as code compliance.
Sure.
So it's a good place to look at it and see if there's anything else so that we can finally get this thing done and out there.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Did we adopt it? It's already in force and effect, right?
Correct.
But there are changes, right, that are being looked at right now, from what I understand?
Yeah, we made the changes that you asked for, and I'm assuming these are additional changes that are being suggested. Is that correct?
Well, I had thought that there was some other issues that had cropped up based on the ordinance that was passed. And so somebody I had spoken with had said they'd been talking to staff or the attorneys about some of the new issues that had arisen as a result of the language.
Oh.
That's right. We're still having meetings about additional issues, but the corrections you had previously directed were made.
Right.
Is there a way to set up a, well, we have the we have the committee. Is there a way to set up soon a review meeting and invite some of the stakeholders? I know that I've been getting telephone calls too in that regard, and if we could get that done before the season kicks off. I know we've got the enforcement side of it is causing some ire already, and I'd like to see it resolved before we get into full swing of the season. And if we can get that meeting set up with the stakeholders and that review committee sometime in March, that would be ideal.
Well, I just spoke with Lisa Firth, who's heading that committee, and their first meeting is what, the 24th of this month? Tuesday.
So Tuesday the 25th?
So depending on whether the issues that have been discussed are ready, it could be addressed as soon as the 24th.
Sure.
That's it.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Well, that's it for that topic.
Oh, okay.
Yep, okay. Do y'all need any more direction on that particular thing?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. I did want to give a shout out to the Destin Library Friends Guild. I had the pleasure of attending this past week a speaker named Richard Cohen come in as part of the speaker program. I know Councilman Morgan was there as well. This is a very well-known writer and attorney, and he spoke on the rise of white nationalism. So it was really exciting to have some really interesting topics come up, really dynamic, interesting speakers coming to talk to us all. So just a great program. They're doing a great job over there. So kudos to the library staff. And by the way, I'm not sick. I've just been cheering for my daughter at a cheer competition all week. So even though I sound horrible, I'm really okay and I'm not contagious. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up was the workshop that we have scheduled, I believe, on the 24th about the event center. And, it sounds like a great thing, and I would love to have, an opportunity to maybe discuss this again in the future, but we have already had 2 different meetings where we went over it, a council meeting, and then we talked about it in the surtax workshop. And it just didn't seem like right now we had the council support to really go forward with another workshop and try to implement anything. And we didn't allow for anything in our surtax that we discussed tonight. So I just wanted to see if you all felt that it was still something we needed to do, was having this event center workshop next week or not. And there's crickets, so maybe I'm the only one.
No, I've asked and I've had people, make comments about it that, they thought it would be a good thing, but not in Destin. Yeah, I mean, I've had really, honestly, haven't had any positive thing, come out of it when, kind of throw it around people in Destin, see what, what their thoughts was on it, because we wasn't hearing anything at all. They said didn't think it would be good for Destin, but it'd be nice to have something around Destin somewhere. So that's the only feedback I've gotten.
The whole purpose is something this is an initiative that I'm promoting. If you don't like the mayor, you may not like what I promote, but I think this is something that we need to consider. Maybe it's trying to grab for the golden ring of sorts, but right now there's that golden ring is there. The Triumph Fund has got hundreds of millions of dollars that they haven't been able to spend. It's a pot of money for economic improvement to communities. Having a community and an event center that would not only serve our citizens 365 days a year with a first-class facility that I think they duly deserve, but it would also create an economic driver and create the intent of the town center CRA when it was formed in the first place. It's a special taxing district to encourage redevelopment of a community. The project that the team that I helped put together, and that's going to make a formal presentation and an ask, basically, that's what it's about, a transformational project where currently an eyesore exists. That piece of land is the only one available in the community today. It may not be a year from now or 2 years from now. That funding through Triumph will be gone, probably back in the state's coffers if they don't hurry up and spend it. So this is the best time to talk about it. We have a lot on our plate, our beach initiative, but we've already got funding for that. We're still asking for more money for Triumph. So I've got a lot of people that are in support of it. That's why I wouldn't be promoting it, standing up there on top of the mountain all by myself if there wasn't other people that are very interested in this happening, and some of those people will be at the workshop. And the whole purpose of a workshop is not only for us to get together, because we can't talk about this kind of thing due to sunshine laws, but also to hear from the people that build these kind of projects and hear from the community, not just the business people, but the soccer moms and hockey moms and people that would utilize this. I really feel like the timing's good. We just had a discussion of the money we're going to have to put into the community center here shortly because it's a 35 or 33-year-old building. It's in a bad location with what's going on with traffic. It served our community well, but it's not even in the center of our community anymore. A lot of our new residents and areas of development have actually taken place on the other end of our town. In that particular project, this that we're proposing is actually in the center of Destin. So there's a lot of things. I just burned up some of my talking points for Monday night, but that's the reason I asked for the workshop. You guys legislate and control the discussions that will take place within the city. You have every right to ask for that workshop to be ended, but I think we'll be doing a disservice to the community by not at least spending an hour and a half or so hearing from them, hearing from people that build these kind of projects, and then we can come up, and we're going to talk money too, and how you would fund something like this. So I know it sounds like a lot, but we do have a vision for our community into 2035, I think it is. Most of us won't be here then. Hopefully alive, but maybe not serving on this council. So I just made my case defense of why we should have the workshop, but it's all up to y'all.
Yeah, it's my understanding that, I mean, they're going to come and talk to us and just present us with some more ideas that they have. And then, but they kind of want some input from us on, what do we really want? How big do we want this thing? And, well, how many ice rinks do you want? And how many different things do you want to have that they can put in this thing? And I think, like Gary said, we might be grabbing at the golden ring, but, this is probably an opportunity that we're not going to have again. And these people they've got some other sources for money. It's not just Triumph money. Although Triumph money is certainly good, but they have some other sources, and I think they're going to talk to us about that as well. So I don't know. I just think it's time well spent, and if it winds up that we decide, hey, this just isn't for us right now at this time, then that's okay. But I think we need to just give them another shot at it.
And just to be real honest and open and transparent, I'm gonna ask for a bone-in fillet here. I'm gonna ask you what I think that we ought to need, and that I'd really like for us to have. But keeping in mind that as we go through the process, we hear from the community, it may get pared down, there may not even be an ICE involved or an event center involved. But if nothing else, we create a development and a community center that we can be proud of with either a field house or something that could support our new high school. We have a lot of things that are going to take place in this community in the next 5 to 10 years. And I think this would just be one of those transformational projects that would kind of kickstart it falls right in line with our undergrounding of 98, redevelopment of our harbor districts and stuff like that. It's a little visionary, I understand. The pocketbook may tamp it all down, but I really feel that we owe it to ourselves and to our community to take a good hard look. And Monday actually will just be kind of the vetting process and see where the interest lies. And if you're right, Rodney, there is no community support for something like that, well, we'll hear it loud and clear, and it will either, and that'll be that. Or if you like what you hear and see as a council, and we want to look at it further, well, that'll be the beginning stages. We're far from being anywhere at this time. So, like I said, that's my defense of the workshop, and y'all do what you think is appropriate.
I don't disagree with you. I would love to have something like that, but we had asked some tough questions of the presenter at the surtax workshop, and he essentially said, Triumph funds are very difficult to come by. It takes years, and it just didn't sound very hopeful. I mean, it sounded like he was asking us for a huge buy-in. And
we'll have a little bit different presentation Monday. It'll be on the agenda too, so you can prepare yourself to ask tough questions.
I'd like to get some kind of input from maybe from Kelly Wines or something about why I know the county they got the convention center and they had the land to expand that. Why didn't, they expand it to take on these large cheerleading? I mean, I just went to Tampa this past weekend for volleyball. And we go down there, there's a place there, that the convention center, we had almost 100 volleyball nets inside that place with, going.
Well, if you take a good hard look, in this group that's presenting what we're proposing, they're doing it in Pensacola because they're going to have to bulldoze the Civic Center. It was a poorly thought out, poorly designed building. It has a giant roof that's costs more to heat and cool. There's only limited events and things that you can do with it, just like our convention center actually on Okaloosa Island. It was poorly thought out, and it hasn't served the community very well because it was so limited in what it can do. What we're proposing allows for a variety of things, not only ice hockey, indoor soccer, sports, tournaments. I would like to see a Luke Bryant concert myself personally without having to drive 2.5 hours somewhere. Those are the type of things. And then, and we've tried to stay away from talking about sports tourism and economic drivers and make it more of what can serve the community, because that's what is first and foremost in my mind. But there is no doubt that doing something like this will be a huge economic driver. It's the values in the value-added taxes. We spend a couple of $1 million with our recreational departments, with Morgan Sports Center and the community center. I remember when those discussions to build those things, there were people that didn't think it was necessary. They thought Dalton Threadgill Park was all we needed in the backstop there at the elementary school. And now we have a really nice facility for our community because our council stepped up to the plate, and we spend a lot of money every year to maintain them. We don't make a dime off of them, but boy, they sure do make quality of life in our community great. So, anyways, sorry to take up all your time.
Take up all my time. That's all I have. Nobody else wants to weigh in on anything.
Mr. Mitchell?
Thank you, Mayor.
I don't have to say anything.
I hope the crowd that we have, or I guess I should say, I wish the crowd that's going to fill this building on Monday would have come tonight for the State of the City. Of all the State of the Cities I've ever been at, and I sat out there a long time, this is the most poorly attended, and it's a shame. Okay? It's a shame that people don't care enough. It just appears that they care when it's something on their agenda. But everybody did a good job. Regarding the State of the City, I want to start off by saying, Mayor, you left off one page, and I feel like it's important to bring it up, and it's involving the Sheriff's Office. We're asking for more money, and I don't want to shortchange these numbers because they're important. One page that was in your presentation that was Okaloosa Sheriff's Office, and it was 2019 total calls for service. And the total calls for service for 2019 was 35,477, and there were 142 city ordinance violations. I just want everybody to realize that when we start asking for money, when we go with that extra 10%. Is number one. A question, City Manager, what is the status of our search for a project manager?
They're hired.
Is that going to be the grant writer, and he'll do the same thing? Yes. Okay, I got a phone call. I wasn't sure about that. Question I got today was, with our nighttime code compliance, what's going to be a phone number somebody can call in and reach a code compliance officer? And if we don't know that, if we could just put that out on our webpage. I know we had done it before, but it was just a nighttime question. What number can they contact? Okay. For benefit of the people out possibly looking at this on video, I just want to let everybody know that because I got several calls about this. I spoke with the city manager about this, and he's going to look into it. Dolphin Street, we know, is very, very widely used, and it's a very narrow street, and the lines down the middle are virtually non-existent, so we're going to look at possibly expediting painting that. And then on Scenic 98 itself, a lot of our raised pavement markers are missing and whatnot. And I know the city manager is working on that. I just wanted to let the people that were calling me know that it's a work in progress. Sadly, we have not received enough volunteers for the harbor capacity study, and I know that's been re-advertised. Louis, I know that committee is going to be important, and hopefully with this second advertisement of more people, but what is our consequences if we don't get enough people? Because I know that committee was something that you needed moving forward.
I'd rather be as optimistic as possible, but we will have to reshuffle the deck and use whatever public input and representation that we can get.
Okay.
And I have a question, Steve, that I can add to that. A couple people asked me, they have businesses here in Destin, but they don't live in Destin. I'm not sure if it's clear or not if it had to be Destin residents or not. And so I would like that answer if possible, because I think I could get a few committee members that operate businesses within the city of Destin limits and have BTRs to that effect, but they reside in Walton County or in Fort Walton Beach or Niceville. What would be your take on
Most of our committees, it's a requirement to be a Destin resident.
I know, that's right. That's why I was asking that question. Maybe that's one of the reasons we're having a little bit of difficulty populating that particular committee, because it is harbor-centric in its focus.
How many members are we looking for?
A total of 7 from the various interest groups that we noted.
I think we have 5 applicants now.
I think we
Mayor?
have 7. Sorry?
We currently have 8 as of today.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Well, then we got more since we just, okay, good. All right. Next question. I'm a little confused, if you would, on Rodney's request to be included in that 98 thing. Do we need to motion that or something, or is it something that we just give a consensus? He talked about it, but we didn't have any disposition on it. Do we need to do anything in furtherance of that?
I think, what I'll tell you, I mean, I go to the TPO meetings, and what I was going to suggest when it was my turn to talk, and I'll just go ahead and speak now. I think the city manager is talking to our district manager for FDOT to kind of get a little more clarification on this, but basically, I get what they're looking for is, they've continually asked for input from us about what we want them to do for us. And so some of the things that he's kind of concerned about is, do we want them to, what's our goal in doing something to 98? Do we want to speed traffic up and just move people through Destin? Or do we want to slow traffic down so they can all have a chance to kind of look around and maybe do some shopping or what? And then, of course, the Stallman intersection and the turn into the Emerald Grand, all those kinds of things that we're going to need to kind of get forward, to push forward to them. I'm going to make sure that it's obviously one of the TPO agendas for every TPO meeting that we have, and then if Rodney wants to come along with me, and we'll make sure that it gets the right attention from them. But we need to have something in writing that we're going to give to FDOT that says this is what we want. And this is how then they'll come back to us and they'll design it. They're going to do all the design work. They're going to do. It's not going to cost us anything. They'll take care of it.
Is that out of the realm of the TPO though? They want more, basically, and that's what Rodney was like. Hey, let me be the point guy. I mean, we've done that with Council Member Destin with the work with Gulf Power. I don't see how it would we could follow that precedence and let Rodney be the point guy to convey the council's and the city's wishes, and then work with you in conjunction with your position as representing the city on the TPO. Does that sound like a good idea? I mean, Lance, would you like to weigh in?
It does, and on there's several projects pending out there over the next 5 years with FDOT. One of them is the landscaping that's supposed to happen in next fiscal year for the state. And so I've been in discussions with Mr. Burgess over the last couple of days. And one thing we plan to bring back at the next council meeting is a request for council to approve us going out and hiring one of our continuing services contractors to help with some design work on that, because according to what we've been told, FDOT wants our input, and we can design it within their guidelines however we want to, is if we're willing to spend that money up front. And we're going to bring that as an option to council to let us hire one of our continuing services contractors to do that for the landscaping portion of it. There's a much bigger project that's coming down the pike with the PD&E all the way from airport to the bridge again. But the landscaping portion is supposed to happen next year. And we could actually do the design with council's input, and they would still get to look at it and make sure that we were within their parameters, but we would have a lot of input if we did it that way. And we would just be out the design money.
Well, I just think it'd be a good suggestion. We have a volunteer, and when you volunteer in Destin, that means you get the job, that we do something the same we did with Councilman Destin, being the council's voice in direct communication with the power company. We can do the same thing with FDOT, and then because Skip's position with TPO is parallel to that type of discussion, and then you two together will work with Lance and our public service people, and that way I think it'll enhance a good level of communication between what the council desires, what's our next step, and keep that line of communication open with FDOT. Because when Lance and I went and visited with the Secretary Gaynor, I mean, that's what they like. They just like for municipalities and their leadership to keep an open channel of communication. So if it's, I don't know if we need a motion or not, but, I'd like to hear people's thoughts.
I'm on the TPO with Skip, and since you've taken this interest in it, probably more so than me, if you would like to sit on the TPO, I'm happy to give you my seat.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I would love to.
But honestly, I have a hard time making meetings sometimes, and, I can't commit myself to it like the city probably deserves.
I'm going to make a motion to put Rodney in the place as the second member of the TPO.
Yeah. Second.
I got a motion.
Second.
I got a second. Any further discussion? Tag, you're in, Mr. Braden. Let's vote.
I think it'd be good to work with, stay in touch with Skip and us work together on it. And I'd like to bring something back to the next meeting to hopefully get the council's blessing on it, that, maybe we can move forward and give it to the FDOT and
Sounds good.
keep this ball rolling.
And I will say.
Vote is unanimous, so moved.
I
Go
will
ahead.
say this on the TPO, Nathan Boyles did a really good job for us getting that bumped up on the 5-year list. So he's the chairman of the TPO, and he's certainly a friend of this project. So.
Okay, last but not least, Mayor.
Mayor, may I? Earlier, I think Mr. Braden asked for a resolution. Is that still, you want a resolution back?
I
don't think we need one now, right?
Well, I was wanting to try to get, maybe get the council something to look at, next council meeting. And then
As the new TPO rep, why don't you just work with Lewis and with the land use attorney, because this is all going to be in the realm of, and as far as I can tell, you guys, we're sending out the olive branch back to FDOT. If you guys want to get together and bring something back and just set it on the next agenda, I don't think you need our permission to do any of that.
Yeah, that's.
Skip, there's a meeting on the 21st, right?
I just want to get the blessing of all the council, on it.
You got it just a second ago. Go ahead.
Okay, last but not least, Mayor, a few minutes earlier tonight, you talked about next month having a meeting with the general. Yes. Okay. And that brings up a question that, from a communication standpoint and just information, I certainly didn't know about that meeting, okay, and whatnot. And I'm wondering, when you have those kind of meetings, is that information that we should be briefed on? Because
This particular meeting was at his recommendation, just to see how we're perceiving his troops in our community, how they live, to inform me on upcoming movements. I guess they're going to be moving some families and stuff back to Tyndall.
I just use that
We get along. I was just going to bring up a lot of different issues. If there's anything that comes out of that meeting that requires council's attention or approval or anything like that, I would surely do that. I'm not going to make any commitments as mayor without council approval.
And that's not what I mean. I just meant that I think it's a missed opportunity on our part in the sense that you have a meeting, and I understand what you just said, but a council member may have an issue with somebody, not an issue, a discussion point or something, with somebody you're going to go meet with, that we could bring it to your attention, okay, if we had known that meeting existed. I'm just saying it might be a missed opportunity by us. Not that we're vetting what you're doing, but since this is that far ahead, I just wondered during a council meeting if you would say, hey, next month I'm meeting with General so-and-so, if anybody has anything, talk to the city. It's just, I'm talking about it might be an opportunity that we miss.
And it's a common courtesy that I'd extend to the council. I mean, point well taken, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you, sir. Skip? Mr. Marlar?
Nothing really tonight, but if those of you who are like the Mardi Gras, we have a parade on Saturday at Harbor Walk at 4 o'clock, so join us for the fun and festivities and lots of beads.
Where do we park when we get there for that?
You should be able to park on property.
Mr. Destin?
Thanks, Mayor. I got a couple items tonight. Piggybacking off of the remarks that were made by Councilmember Braden regarding FDOT, the streetscape redesign component that would go through from airport to the Marlar Bridge, and including my project, which is the undergrounding and our relationship with Gulf Power. I believe that it would be in our best interest to make sure that the RFP that we have sent out to solicit services for the undergrounding design and engineering work also to include services for the streetscape redesign component of at least the project that from airport to the Marlar Bridge. And to that end, I'd like to make that motion to direct staff to make that amendment.
I have a motion. And I have a second. Is there any further discussion? I think what because of what our vision is and our strategic plan is, they're about to finish up the 3R project, and we're talking about tearing up the sidewalks and the roads to underground our utilities. So hopefully we don't do that again, because if we're going to redo our medians and redesign our sidewalks and stuff, I think it's critical this time around that we keep in communications with FDOT, Gulf Power, and this council to make sure, let's do it all at one time. Is that what you're getting at, sir? All right. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none? Vote is unanimous. So moved. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Second item, with the absence of the city engineer, I don't want several projects languishing, and one issue that we've got to deal with is the continued pursuit of the either right-of-way vacation or simple redesign of the crosstown connector, and I do not want to wait. I'd like to see this continue moving forward, and I don't want to spend another couple months waiting on a new city engineer to come in and have that new city engineer be drinking water from the fire hose, as they all do is when they first get here. So to that end, we have relationships with at least 4 continuing services contractors. If I'm correct, I get some head nods. We have 5. I'd like staff and the land use attorney and the city attorney, since we've directed them already to be looking at this issue, to be able to see if we can get an hourly rate quote to get those services within the week so that we can keep this process moving forward so we don't have it languishing. If everybody seems okay with that, I can put it in a motion if it'd be better for you. So what I just said in a motion.
I have a motion.
Second.
Have a second. It's a long motion, Ray. I hope you got all that. You can abbreviate it, though, I know. All right? Got a motion, got a second. Any further discussion? Let's take a vote. Yeah. So moved. Unanimous.
Thanks. And one last item. Lance, can you give me a general update of where we just stand on we've had discussions at Calhoun Park about a potential firehouse being placed down there. Can you give me a general update of where we stand in the process procedurally to still move forward on whether or not we want to pursue having that firehouse be placed down there? I know we have exempted the area from the general grant from the federal government for the improvements to the park. And now that it has been exempted and we do have their approval that it is no longer in there, where do we stand? That's what I'm asking.
If memory serves, when the fire district was represented here, their last discussion with this council was to wait until we had final approval from the Treasury and the money was ready to change hands before they wanted to make an additional move on that property.
That's all I needed. Thank you.
And Lance, a second question to that same subject. Is there an estimated start date for that improvements to the park itself, now that the grant's been?
We have not received the interlocal agreement yet from the county for Clement Taylor Park. We have for Royal Melbourne. So Royal Melbourne is in process, the bids are out for that one. We expect that, I mean, it should be any time now. We're in the queue to have that approved. And we've asked the question of when, and they keep telling us it is in the queue. So, I mean, it's going to be soon, because there's not that many projects left in front of us.
Okay, 2020, or you don't want to stretch your neck out that far?
It should definitely be this spring.
That'd be awesome. All right, thank you.
Mayor, that's all I've got. Just wanted to say thank you to the council for allowing me to walk on a few housekeeping motions that were not agendaed.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Morgan?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
I already used up my dime. Land use attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I am requesting to call an executive session pursuant to Section 286.0118 Florida statutes in the case of Point Mezzanine LLC versus City of Destin, Okaloosa County Court, case number 2019 CA 004010F, and Point Mezzanine LLC versus City of Destin, Okaloosa County Court, case number 2019 CA 003733F, for the purpose of discussing litigation expenditures and settlement strategy.
We'll need a motion for that, ma'am?
Yes.
I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
So moved. I got a second. Any discussion other than the time?
Yeah, the only question, I think you need to insert a date.
Nope, we're going to ask Lance about that if you are good with calling the session.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Mayor, I will be abstaining from voting as a member of that
Okay, thank
party
you,
I'm
sir.
employed by.
So noted. Ms. Marlar's going to abstain. Seeing no further discussion? Vote unanimous with one abstain.
And I don't know if the city clerk and the city manager can give us an available date, or if we can do it before the next council meeting at 5:30.
March 2nd at 5:30 is what Cal and I discussed.
Okay, so then the executive session that we just referenced will be March 2nd at 5:30 PM.
All righty. Is that all? You done?
Yes,
Need
thank
more?
you.
All right. And Mr. Bowman.
Just real quick, just wanted to update council on the East Pass. It's scheduled to be dredged starting at the end of the month. Right now, everything looks good. So.
Glory to God in the highest. That's been a long time coming, and I just want to give special kudos to Kyle and the county legal team. Their efforts have been, they've gone above and beyond the call of duty on this, and it's been an arduous, difficult legal and actually trying to just facilitate getting the equipment here. And so this is great news to our fishing fleet and all our anglers and boaters that utilize East Pass. At this time, we'll finish up tonight's meeting with an opportunity for the public to speak. Is there anyone that would like to weigh in? Any public comments? Ms. Bell, come on up.
Long time no see, Marcy Bell, 3 Gulf Breeze Court. Just some items that I made notes on. I did want to note the grass beds at Crab Island, as Councilmember Braden spoke of. They are critical, and Crab Island's entertainment district lies within the boundaries of a zone where that activity is not allowed. I think that's something that the city should talk to the National Park Service about, or Okaloosa County, whoever would be interested. I wanted to speak to the Gulf Shore Drive parallel parking improvements that look really good. They've paved the parking and put the lines down. I do have some questions about the lines, but I'll take that up with staff. I celebrate the beach initiative. Thank you very much. I also wanted to note that while there's a lot of commentary about Holiday Isles HOA property and no public beach access, I also wanted to make note that there's no public beach access between Oceana East to the back porch, June Deckert public beach access, so it's not just a Holiday Isle, and Holiday Isle does have the Osteen beach access. If you're willing to walk, you can get there. Bike lanes. The bike lanes that have been put down, it was brought to me my attention last week that wide trailers being pulled by pickup trucks or other vehicles are wider than that right lane, and someone almost got clipped by one of those trailers, and I'm sure the driver of the truck didn't even know it. I would like to talk to the city about making the entire right lane a bike lane, as they have in the city of Tallahassee and other municipalities, where they just make the whole lane a bike sharing lane versus this little bitty thing on the right-hand side. The county half-cent sales tax. Last year, you and I were in the meeting at the county, and they said that they were going to use the first portion of the half-cent sales tax for Destin to put in the traffic light there at Henderson, where the two behind Walmart, where the two apartment complexes are. Does anybody have any information on when that's going to happen?
Yeah, they just sent the city a letter.
Because they were interested, they wanted that because it was pretty much a ready-to-go project.
It's ready to go, but they had to order parts.
Okay.
And
Well, I mean, we're looking now, that was like,
It's going to happen.
okay.
Just not in the time frame that you and I would like.
Well, that's okay. I mean, it's been 13 months, so I just wanted to bring it up.
What
No
they aren't going
question.
to do, what they aren't going to do, though, they aren't going to put a street light. And if we want to put a street light, we got to do it ourselves.
I would like to have seen a large roundabout there, but what do I know? I want to bring to the attention now in January the safety of the public recreating at the East Pass Beach at the jetties. When we have the commercial boats that are backing in on those of us who recreate there and telling us to get out of the water, they throw their anchors at us. We have videotape of it. I hope that that's going to start coming to an end this year. It's been going on for many seasons. The county park at Scenic Highway 98 is looking really great. There's a lot of improvements going on over there. I did a walkthrough, took a lot of photos. I haven't made any public comments to it because I just haven't had time, but that's looking really great over there. And you mentioned the beach renourishment project, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcy. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Before I hit the gavel, it's been brought to my attention that Ms. Kopp has something else she would like to add.
I do. Just the attendees for the executive session on March 2nd at 5:30 are going to be all city council members, the mayor, the city attorney, Kyle Bauman, myself, and our insurance counsel, William Warner.
Okay, so noted and on the public record. All right.
And the city manager, Lance Johnson.
And the city manager, as long as he brings us snacks. I would like to thank everyone that came tonight, and especially the council. Job well done. Thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.